Alright guys, I just got back from watching Scream 7, and I want to start off by saying that if you are boycotting this movie, I'm not going to say you're wrong. In fact, you're probably right to do so. I think the whole situation was really stupid and messed up. There's no way that Melissa should have been fired. It was all really stupid. And in fact, the fact that they lost their actress, their directors, their like half of their stars of their show, or the last movie, and then they had to completely revamp everything they were doing, go in this entirely different direction, and this is the movie we end up with. I do kind of feel like, okay, it was not worth it. Like, this is not nearly as interesting as the movie we probably would have gotten, and that kind of makes me sad, because like a lot of people, this is my favorite horror franchise, you know, and I feel like, you know, this movie's not, it's not terrible. It's not like a bad movie. I wouldn't even say that, right? It's just, it's very generic and somewhat forgettable, which is sad to say for a Scream movie, because this movie overall is just missing, it's missing some of that meta juice to it, right? Like, Scream can be corny and silly and goofy. It can also be like legitimately scary sometimes, but also it's mostly about the character relationships and you actually caring about these people, you know, being friends and having each other's backs and theorizing with each other and all those like little moments. And they try to make some of those here, but it feels like the only people you care about are the ones that were from the last movies. They introduced like 7 new characters, including Sydney's daughter, and you just don't care about any of them. And not only that, but they're just they're very forgettable. They don't even feel as memorable as some of the previous, like, you know, just introduced to be fodder for the killer, right? Like, they don't even feel as memorable as some of those past characters. So I don't know, overall this is just, it's whatever, you know. It feels like I can just like kind of forget about this one and just move on, which kind of sucks, because Scream is a franchise that I rewatch a lot, and so for this one to definitely just be like, it just kind of happened again. This feels like Sydney like has a Wednesday, you know, like this just happens to Sydney all the time, and they kind of treat it that way, to where you're just like, okay, who is it now? Okay, it's that person that you don't care about. Great job. I'll go into spoilers in a little bit, but anyways, all to say that this movie is kind of generic as a slasher. You're not really surprised by much, and even the stuff they kind of try to mess with you with, like, I feel like all that's gonna really do is disappoint people who wanted certain things to happen, and they don't happen. So I think that's gonna be definitely part of it. So that's my non-spoiler review right there. It's kind of just generic, it's kind of forgettable, it's going to be in the bottom tier of Scream movies. It's not horrible by any means, you know. There's definitely, like, if you just want to watch a horror movie with a crowd full of people, sure, go ahead and check it out. But it's we definitely would have been better served if they had just stuck with the original plan and not had all of this stuff happen behind the scenes, because I feel like it's definitely just this shadow hanging over the entire movie as you're watching it even. So I don't know, that's me. I'm gonna get in some spoilers now, so here we go. Okay, spoiler time. Woo. First big spoiler, and this is like the big one that the trailers kind of treat it like it's gonna maybe happen, because it's something that the fans have wanted forever. Fans have always kind of wanted Stu Macher to come back. They wanted that somehow he was still alive this whole time. In fact, I think it was Scream 3, there was like very early drafts where he would have come back. And they kind of teased a little bit of this in Scream 6. They kind of had a conversation where, like, maybe he somehow survived, maybe he didn't die, right? They kind of leave like a little crack in the door, right? And this movie, Matthew Lillard is all over this movie, okay? And they show you him like immediately, so it's not even like a surprise. You're like, oh, they're just straight up showing you that it's Matthew Lillard, Stu Macher's back, or at least that's what the killer is claiming. And so the entire movie, we're basically sitting in between this place where the main characters, Sydney and Gail, they do not believe that Stu can possibly be alive. They just go ahead and assume it's AI or deepfake or whatever, right? And so you as the audience are kind of going back and forth, because there is some evidence that it could be him for real. And of course we get all the way to the very end and the big reveal, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be Stu, here it comes. And it's not. It's not Stu. So the thing does not happen. It is just AI deepfakes, and the killers that get revealed are, I would say, probably they have to be the most underwhelming killers that have ever happened, right? I think that can be said for sure. You do not care about these two people. One of them is just an orderly at a psych ward that we met for a second, that was just kind of there to explain how they're able to AI and deepfake all this stuff, because he's like, oh, I was a Google employee at some point, therefore I can have these very convincing, very super realistic AI deepfakes of what Stu Macher would look like if he got older and had a bunch of scars. That way you question if it's real or not. I don't know. Like, it, okay. And then the other killer is just Sydney's neighbor, who explains that she was inspired by Sydney's book, the one that we saw her writing in number 4. She was inspired by her book to kill her abusive husband, and then she was fine, but then when Sydney was not in New York for number 6, somehow that drove her crazy, and so she started this whole plan where now she's going to make a new Sydney, which will be Sydney's daughter or something. Like, it's all very, like, it stops making sense. And then you have to question, well, wait, these two people, they're not fans of the Stab movies. They're not fans of, like, the original killers in any way. They're not fans of, like, Billy and Stu or something. They have no personal familial connections to anybody at all. They're not related to anybody. So why would they go through all this trouble to specifically choose Stu Macher to be the person that they're gonna pretend is alive still? It doesn't really make any sense. I don't know why they would do that. It just feels like a big troll, like, both on Sydney and on us, the audience. That's kind of what it feels like. And don't get me wrong, I'm not even mad. I'm not mad that Stu was not in the movie, okay? Or, I mean, like, you know, really in the movie. I'm not mad that it was just a deep fake AI. I kind of like that idea as a concept. Like, I feel like that could be cool if the motivation for doing it made a lot more sense. Because the motivation as to why these two would do it, like, it's not there. It doesn't... I don't understand why they would do it, you know? If it was, what's his name, Richie from number 5, that would make a lot more sense for him to do that kind of thing, you know? Because he's such a fan of the movies, right? So, like, yeah, he would bring back one of the killers, or at least try to, like, immortalize them digitally. Like, that's kind of a cool idea. These two, no, I don't buy it. It doesn't... There's nothing making any kind of sense there. They're not like social media people or influencers or something. Like, it doesn't... There's no logic there. So anyways, there's that. And then, yeah, I guess just overall, the movie just... It's very much about Sydney and her daughter and that whole relationship, and they try to get you to really care about that, but you kind of don't. And then they introduce all of these teenage friends who, I don't know, they all feel like just mimics of earlier groups of teenagers that you've seen in the other movies, right? Like, there's the creepy kid who's really into movies, really into horror movies, and you're like, okay, so that's the same character archetype we've already seen. The only people that are really entertaining are the brother and sister from 5 and 6, because they come back as part of Gale's crew, and they're actually really funny still. They're still fun to watch. And I'm like, you know, when I see those sequences, I'm like, you know what will be great right now? The Core 4. The Core 4 would be really great right now. And I hate to be having those thoughts while I'm watching this movie. And I do not think that this is a case of, oh, well, you were so thinking about behind the scenes stuff that this clouded your view of the movie. I don't think that's what happened here. I think this is just what the movie is. It's very generic. It's kind of forgettable. You don't really care about any of the new characters or relationships they try to make you care about. I don't know. The franchise, this movie made the franchise feel tired. Number 5 and 6 did not make the franchise feel that way, you know? And that's where I'm like, oh, you're kind of in a dangerous spot here, because it definitely felt like we were going in a more exciting direction than this. But now we just have, like, generic killers that you won't remember, because even now, sitting here, I cannot tell you the killers' names. I don't remember what their names are. because they had no connection to anybody. They're not important at all, really, to the story, like in any way. They're not like related to that person, or they knew that person way back then, or they like anything. There's nothing there. The only thing of note that they did was pretend as if more important people like Stu Macher and a bunch of other cameos we get near the end, pretend as if those people were still alive. That's the only interesting thing that these two people did, and I don't know why they did it. So that's where we're at. And yeah, we got some other cameos. We got, I think, Sydney's brother comes back as a small sequence. We get Billy Loomis's mom comes back, and of course Dewey comes back for a second, you know, but it's like literally like 10-second digital facsimiles of these people, right? So it's like those characters are not back. It's all just AI deepfake versions of them, which again, it's kind of a cool idea if it was done by more interesting people and for more interesting reasons, but it wasn't. So that kind of sucks. And yeah, overall, I kind of left this one going like, you know what? And I hate to say this, but I don't think we need to ever have Sydney go through this again. You know, like, there's just nowhere to take that character. You know, that like everyone else that you cared about is already dead or gone. Gail and her are still there, and they do the same thing they always do. We're like, oh, we're kind of not friends, but then we kind of are friends, but then we're kind of not friends because we're kind of like, eh, but then we're kind of friends by the end of it. Like, they just do this every time they meet each other. And I'm like, oh, all right. You guys are like, I don't know, you've known each other for like 3-4 decades now, right? 3 decades. So like, you're friends. Just say you're friends and just move on with it, right? Like, you're friends, but you're long distance friends. You don't talk that much, but I don't know. They always have like a weird relationship, and they just do that again here. So I don't know. I think it's just that there's nothing new. It doesn't feel like we're going anywhere exciting, and there's just not much of note here. It's just kind of another one, but like a lesser version of those. And the whole time you're watching this, you're like, man, well, you didn't do the Stu Macher thing because maybe you thought that was just too out there, but now it definitely feels like you didn't do the most interesting thing you could have done, at least. So now you just kind of did nothing. You know, and now I'm like, man, the core 4 would have been so great. Anyways, that's Scream 7. Unfortunate. It's not horrible, but it is forgettable. So there you go. The most interesting thing is the Airbnb at the beginning of the movie. Like, I want to see more of that. That was kind of cool. You know, I want to read all the little plaques that they had up, all the little display pieces. Like, that's cool, but that's like the best part of it. So anyways, yeah, that's Scream 7. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you're gonna go see it, or do you kind of want them to like eventually go call Melissa back up and be like, hey, so you know, how do you feel about being a number 8? So anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye.